Hello and welcome to Turn It Up. We're in the presence of absolute greatness, one of New South Wales and Balmain's greatest, and New South Wales' greatest ever coach, Benny Elias. Thanks for coming.
Pleasure, Joey.
Benny, Lebanese background. You were the first Lebanese player to play in the NRL. How was that?
That's true. Look, you'd never have thought of, when I was growing up as a kid, I was meant to play the round ball, but I just fell in love. My first love wasn't my first girlfriend. My first love was rugby league. And at the age of 7, listening to Rex Mossop call the football and Frank Hyde on the radio, I just fell in love with the game, and and forever and a day, it was my love life. And when, you get tapped on the shoulder at the age of 15 by the great Keith Barnes, it's certainly time, and you think, my God, you pinch yourself, and one thing led to another, and it was just my love. And it still is.
Early on, it was a pretty violent game, and you're a little Lebanese bloke playing, and you're in the middle of the scrum.
Yeah.
Like, what was it like? I remember playing at the end of the 80s, and, I always think about getting a leg up because the people around you looked after you. Like, what was it like, and the players around you, and how did they have to look after you?
Well, it's important, Freddie. As growing up as a kid, Holy Cross College was my school, which was the reason I went to the school is because they were renowned for rugby league. So I went to the school, and you made sure that you were surrounded by good people, and we did. We had some, great coaches. Both of them. One played for Australia, Kevin Smythe, who was a lock forward for the Dragons, and he was behind old Chook Raper, so he never got the accolade that he really deserved. But they were mentors. They were mental mentors for us that made us just believe in the game, and they just made it fun. And the more fun it was, the better it became.
Yeah, Benny, any of the trouble that was on the field, you started. Like, that was your nature, wasn't it?
Well, as you said, I'm the small fella on the football paddock, so you just had to make sure that if you gave a little bit of cheek, you just made sure that you had someone with you. And my best mate, Blocky Roach, was my left and right hand man, and I always knew that I put my arm around Blocky, that I felt safe. You just felt so safe amongst that environment with Blocky, and you did get a little bit cheeky and push the barrow a little bit, and that's, it was.
One of the icons of the game, Ian Walsh, said you were too small to play rep football. Then you end up going on and playing rep football. How did that make you feel, and how does it make you feel you changed the dummy half position?
It's funny you say that, Joey. The ghostwriter for Ray Cheston, who was a journalist at the time, rang me up and he said, "I'm just about to do this article for you," and there you go. And I'm about to do this article, and they say that you're too small. And well, I got that clipping out of the paper, and I put it up on my fridge at the age of 15 or 16, and I kept that as a motivation for me to make sure you try and defy people, because when people say you can't do it, you try and defy them, and that was basically the avenue you went.
But you really redefined hooker play in those days. I mean, hookers were just dummy halves, and they fought for the ball in the scrum. That's what they were there for. You were actually a playmaker. You actually got out of dummy half, you had skill, you had a kicking game, and you actually ran with the ball a lot more than traditional hookers did.
Well, Gus, as you said, when you opened it up, I was this small, ethnic Lebanese bloke playing the game. You had to do something different to sort of be recognised. And the things that were different in the number 9 was kicking from dummy half, and creating things for the other players, and doing something different, and that just generated into becoming different in that role of a footballer. So.
Well, you three were probably in the greatest era of New South Wales history, 92, 93, 94.
Yeah.
I want you to chat about that.
Well, I reckon the most important part of that was you two, like your relationship. Like, it'd be interesting what your first impressions of each other were, because they're pretty edgy first. There was some, there was some statements made, but I thought,
argy-bargy.
Yeah.
Well, not as cold as Slater did when he walked out of here. I just got to say, Billy was really peeved, wasn't he?
Talk about you two.
But Gus, we had a relationship. I was captain in 1990 under Jack Gibson, and we won the first series. And the following year, we got beat, and getting taken away your captaincy, and it became a little bit. It was a little bit upsetting, but it was what it was. I was glad to be part of the side still. And the great man you can't deny was the great Laurie Daly, who came over and took over as captain. But mate, we never, we had a great relationship. I thought we had a very good relationship, Gus. You know, the way you coached and, you know, the storytelling. You had more stories than Golden Books, you. But you had all the players believing in these stories, and it was a wonderful motivator. And you'd go to sleep always closing your eyes, you know, thinking about your stories that you gave, and they were just so powerful, and it just oozed right throughout the side.
I think what we tried to do was make Origin special, to sort of make it a team away from your club teams.
Yeah.
Like, you bring players together that normally compete with each other on a weekly basis. They come from all different clubs.
Yep.
And you've got a week to get them together to play against Queensland, who were mighty at the time. And I think at the end of the 3-year tenure where we won all three, that group was as close as a club side. You couldn't have got any closer to what that group was with each other at those times.
It's funny you say that, Gus, because today, I mean, the likes of us, Freddie and Laurie Daly and Ricky Stewart, you know, they're still our best mates. Clyde, I mean, and they're all from different clubs. And you have that, you just get that affiliation, that relationship, that bonding in such a short time, in 6 weeks that you're together. You just form a relationship that you have forever. And it is incredible, Gus. And everyone are leaders in their own clubs, and they come for 6 weeks, and you just respect. It's all about respect, and it was just great.
30 years ago this year, you three went down to Melbourne after losing the first game, and you won in Melbourne, and then you went to Brisbane and won a decider. Similar to this year, what's in front of New South Wales. What's your memories about that?
Well, mate, I can tell you, Joey, that this was their God-given right. It was Mal Meninga's farewell. I recall it clearly. And we were down 1-0, and we won the second game in Melbourne, as our Blues have done. We had a real big challenge on our plate because, you know, it was Mal's farewell, and I mean, he's iconic. Just when you talk Queensland, you talk Mal Meninga and Wally Lewis, and just everything was in their favour for the momentum. But we just did the extraordinary, didn't we, Gus? Yeah. We just did the unbelievable and making and creating history. And I recall, Gus, that you made it very clear that we're playing for the people of New South Wales. You know, the 8.5 million people that live in our great state, and it's for them. This one's for them. And it was a very special moment, that I thought, in '94, where we just, you know, we dominated. I mean, I remember from the kick-off, Laurie Daly almost snapped Mal Meninga in two from the kick. He just belted him, and you just knew from that minute onwards that we had this series.
New South Wales had never won a decider in Queensland before, and deciders are different up there in Queensland. They're a different sort of origin. It's a different sort of beast. But that was the end of a 3-year tenure for us, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that team had been built over 3 years, had been together over 3 years. We won in '92, sort of against the odds. We won in '93, came back in '94. And the first game, we were in front with not long to go in that game. That was the Mark Coyne miracle try.
Yeah, that's
and he scored in the corner to get that game one of the series. And game two was in Melbourne. And I remember walking into the dressing room and not so much talking about the miracle try that just beat us, but sort of skipped over Melbourne and said, we'll be the first team to win a decider in Lang Park. So virtually said, we'll win in Melbourne. We'll be the first team to win a decider in Lang Park. And they lifted their heads and they said, yeah, that's our challenge. That's what we'll do. We went to Melbourne, cut them out 14-0. And then went there and belted them in game three. Oh. Very important thing about that too, because there was a relationship between Laurie Daly, who was our captain, and Mal Meninga, who was his captain and mentor at the Canberra Raiders. And Mal had always stood over Laurie a little bit. And in preparation for that game, we talked about being Mal's last game and the big send-off and what the atmosphere is going to be like. I think it was Laurie Daly said, stuff Mal. He said, this is about us.
Yeah,
and everyone just went, okay. And he did. He set the tone right from the start of the game.
He did. And you know how ironic it is? The two captains here for this present series both come from Manly, DCE and Trbojevic, and the two captains for the Queenslanders both come from the same club, and the same happened back 30 years ago, almost to the day. So it's quite eerie, and we just want to make sure that the results are the same 30 years on.
We're talking about your success. What about the '89 Grand Final? Still, I think, the greatest Grand Final ever played. You know, I have lunch with Wock all the time on Ryan, and he can't talk about it.
Well, that was a real... Look, that was a time in your life where you're hot favourites to win a premiership. We got beaten in '88 the year before, and we just knew that we had this one was under our guard, and we went in half-time, leading, feeling very confident. And but look, so many things happen that, you know, you go back that long ago. I can recall clearly the things that could have turned the game. The ankle tap of Mick Neal should have went and scored a try.
Goal? How often do you think
Do you
about
go to bed thinking about it? Still?
Bing, I hear this bing every night before I go to bed. Like, bang. Yeah, no, not right. But if a day don't go by and
Here
it is, bang, you know, it's just gone crack. And there it is.
A half-inch higher.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, if only just. But look, it was one of those moments. Would have taken us to 7 points, and we would have went and won that grand final. And it does. It haunts me. It does.
Haunts you?
It does.
Really?
Well, someone reminds me every day. You know, what about that grand final and that field goal you could have?
Well, you weren't beaten by Slouchers because they went to the next two grand finals after that. They were probably recognised as one of the great club sides in history, and we played against them in 90 and 91.
Yeah.
But Tigers deserved to be deserved to be premiership winners that year. I thought you were the best side in the comp that year.
Yeah, well, we got 89. South Sydney were the minor premiers that year, and we did a real good number on the Rabbitohs, which made us confident to go into that grand final. And but you're right, Gus, when you talk about the players in the Raiders side, you had Belcher, Meninga, Chica, Laurie Daly, Ricky Stewart, Lazarus, Walters. I mean, the superstars. It's all superstars on that. And they all of a sudden, you're right, they became superstars after that game, all of them. Like, you know, that was a side of just greats.
Rivalry makes sport in rugby league. Mario Fennick, you and Mario.
Well,
Lebanese on Maltese.
Well, you know what, Joey? It's amazing how two likes become a wrong. And we both grew up being ethnics. He was from the Maltese world and I came from the rugby league. But that's a very rare photo, I can assure you. But we just loved playing rugby league against each other. In the SG ball, Jersey flag, Tugger Coleman used to egg Mario on all the time. And, you know, and he'd always take the bait, you know. And, you know, we both...
You lived rent-free in Mario's head every day of his life. My last year playing, I played for South the last year, and I think we played you in a semi-final.
We did, 87.
And just after half-time, Benny got Mario sent off, and it's one of the great stories.
Tell the story. Tell the story how you got Mario sent off.
Oh, dear.
Don't say it because he'll come running in.
No, he's not outside.
No, he's not outside.
You lived rent-free in Mario's head every day. Every day.
Tell us the story.
OK, 87. Look, and we're in all sorts of strife. Half-time, you guys are smacking us, Gus, and we had to do something different because they were just dominating. And I said to Blocky, Blocky, can you start a stink the next fight, next scrum? And he goes, of course. What are you talking about? Like, last day goes tonight. If you tell
what kept
you? And they've knocked the ball on, and as they run into the scrum, I've bit my hand as hard as I possibly could. You know, thinking, geez, you know, put the mouth back in. We have the scrum, and as day goes on, as I say, Blocky gives Les Davison the greatest uppercut, and it's an all-in brawl. And, you know, Kevin Roberts, God bless his soul, refereeing, great job. He looks at, gets the players all together, separated, and I've walked to him. I said, oh, my God, have a look what Fennick's done. There's blood's everywhere. And he goes, don't worry, Benny, I saw it. And he said, Fennick, you're off.
Has he ever forgiven?
That was gamesmanship. Never forgiven me. And still to the day. I mean, we patch up and make up now. And, you know, I saw him at Jeff Fennick's 60th birthday just recently. Right. And, look, he's in good... He's OK, mate.
Yeah.
We get on. He really is OK, but if give him half a chance, he'd whack me in the head, I reckon.
I'll never forget, that was my last ever game.
Yeah? Really?
Yeah.
Playing 87?
Mario got sent off. 86.
86, sorry, 86.
What about some of the legends? Balmain in the late 80s, Blocker, Ciro, Wayne Pearce, Gary Jack. Tell us about some of the legends.
Well, they're great legends. You know, you've got Junior on the board now of the Australian Rugby League, and you know, Blocker and Ciro and Jimmy Jack, the great man Kerry Hemsley there, big Cheriotic buckets. He loves his show.
Does he?
Yeah, he does.
He's still going, is he?
He's not well at the moment. He's got throat cancer, and he's struggling at the moment. There's big unit Ciro. He's moved up now up to Lennox Head, retired, loving life, and there's my mate Blocky. I just love Block. I mean, Blocky and myself catch up twice a week, talk to each other every day, and that is the greatness of this great game. You talk about forever and a day. You are in love forever, and you know there's no divorces. It's best mates, and you live it forever and a day. Sorry about that, Joey.
Yeah. What about footy today? Very different to what it was on and off the field.
Yeah.
Do you envy the players today?
No, not any. I actually respect them. The game today is so much quicker, so much more physical, and I admire them. I think, and I think sometimes now, was I that crazy watching, Mal Meninga, launching yourself in front of a Mal Meninga run? Like, duh. Yeah, but these guys today have just got this pizzazz about them. They've got gifted so much skills. There's so many different skills, Gus, than when we were playing. They just seem to have just brilliant, the way they throw the ball around, they just practice hour after hour after
They're
hour.
all full-time now. And
it's full-time,
It's a different postcode to when and I often say to Bradley, we got the best of it because of the lifestyle we had, and we enjoyed football in a different way. Like, it was not so much a career back then, was it? It was just a love, and you got well paid for it, but it wasn't the full-time professionalism that we see today. It's a totally different
The team was very important, though. I remember
the team was everything.
Through.
The team was everything.
I remember coming through. The team was everything. Like, and I hear players even come out of our generation and talk about, your family comes first and you do this and you got to look after this.
Yeah.
I never felt like that.
No.
But we had a social life.
To think like that.
We had a social life too, didn't we?
Everything was the team.
We had a social life outside of footballers too, which I don't think players have as much today. There's a lot more scrutiny on
mobile phones.
It's a lot more difficult.
Oh,
no phones, no cameras. Thank God.
They just hammered us.
Mate, one of the most iconic photos involving you and Origins when your mum came down on the field. What year was that?
That was
92, I think.
92, it was 92. And we had to win that game. And I remember, Gus, from the kick-off, Laurie Daly and Bradley Clyde were replaced within, 10 minutes of the first half. Two of the strike players.
Craig Salvatore came on.
Salvo came
Brad
on.
Mackay came on.
Brad Mackay, very good.
Yeah,
Jeez, very, very good. And he sharing that moment with Mum at the end, full time, it was just something special. Like, there's 15 seconds to go, and I looked to my right, and there's my mother on there with a handkerchief pouring. What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing here? And she didn't care. It's just mother's nature where they just love their kids, and they didn't care about anything. They just wanted to make sure that their kid was okay. And she jumped this fence, 6-foot fence, got through the security guard. She's wiping like, what the hell?
Well, you talk about family.
Wonderful, yeah.
You got skin in the game now with Origin coming up.
Yes.
Your nephew, Mitchell Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what's it like watching your nephew go about his work?
Oh, look, damn proud. I mean, what can you say? Everyone said what we have to say about Mitchell Moses in the last week. Since that State of Origin game, he's become a superstar now, big superstar. But he's always been a wonderful young man, still is a good kid. He's got a great nature about himself. His ethics with the way he trains is second to none. And look, I've always admired him. I was in my early days when I was on the board of the Tigers. I got him over from the Eels to come over and play. He played at Holy Cross and played at the West Tigers there in his early days. And unfortunately, he left our club. But he was certainly one of the players that you just knew was going to be a superstar. And I used to get berated all the time when I was doing stuff on Fox on 360 that they'll say, because you're biased because it's your nephew. But truly, the kid is amazing, and I'm so proud of him and all our families, obviously, of what he's achieved. And and he's just the ultimate professional. He's just.
I'll tell you what I liked. I liked the way he played last night. It was a big thing for us back in the day. Remember, to go back and play well for your club, back up and play for your club. And he was terrific for Parramatta last night after his biggest night of his life, biggest night of his career. And as you said, it's probably the best game of his life.
Yeah.
He's backed up 3 days later and had a stormer for
Played
Parramatta.
tough.
Played really good, scored a couple of tries, and he was really good. So he's, and he's 30 years of age. Like the playmakers these days, in our day when you got to 30, they were sort of pushing you out the door. You were gone. These days, our top playmakers are all over 30 years of age. Like, he's still got the best part of his career in front of him.
The other halfback, Cherry Evans, he's what, 35, 36?
But Mitchell now, he put on 4 or 5 kilos in the off-season. His defence is now way better than it's ever been. And I think once you get your defence right, your confidence is right, you start to create and become the leader of the pack. And he's just been brilliant in every way that he's just shown the players around the field and just taken charge.
Off air, we're talking about Mark Geyer. I wish it could go to air, but MG, you were in between MG when he was mad and the King.
Yes.
What's your memories of that?
Jeez, well, have a look. I mean, he said everything in the English vocabulary that you're not supposed to know, and he was calling Wally everything under the sun, and Wally was giving it back just as good as he was getting. And mate, I tell you, they were it was just two of them, and it just sort of typified what we were all about, and just it was brilliant. And MG's one of my favourites. And to have the pleasure playing with him, I played against him, and he's obviously very, very well regarded. But playing with him,
he never gets a credit for that period, does he? He was just about the best player in the comp for that couple of years.
Unbelievable.
He was the best player. He was the most dangerous player in the comp in attack and defence. People always think about his defence.
Was Sheens coaching that game?
Sheens, yeah, 92.
They rang me that week. I was coaching Penrith still, but he was our player. And they needed to win. You'd lost the first game. Yeah. They had to win.
Yeah,
and they said, we need MG right. Yeah. And I rang MG in camp that day. I said, mate, tonight's the night. You've got to unleash, and which he did. And he got suspended for 9 weeks straight after.
He claims they said,
he should have got life.
You can't get
you got the green light.
You got the green light to do what you like.
But back then they said, mate, no one's ever been sent off in State of Origin football, And they're just winding him up. You put him in the corner.
Were you winding him up?
No. A blocker came in and he said, mate, you get away with everything in this game. This is a licence to do whatever you want. And it was. And
he wasn't recognised for the talented player he was. He was tough and he was an intimidator, but he was an extremely talented player, very skillful, great footballer.
Well, Benny, thanks for coming in, mate. We could sit here all day, literally, and chat footy. It's been so. And thanks for coming in, Gus.
Thanks, Gus.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights, action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast. Get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie and the Owner.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.